appraisals and their role in a real estate transaction. Hi, I'm Amol Heda with Keller Williams Bay Estates and author of Thriving Through Ownership. So today we are going to talk about appraisals, what they are, what they mean to a real estate transaction, what happens if an appraisal comes higher, what happens if an appraisal comes lower, what exactly is it, and what does it mean to the buyer, the seller, and the lender. Watch this video. So number one, what exactly is an appraisal? An appraisal is a third-party estimate or an estimate of value from a licensed third party who has no interest in the transaction about the opinion of value of the property in question. Now, why do we need an appraisal? When the seller is saying some price, buyer has said some price, and they come to an agreement at another price, there are all these numbers. To add to the complexity, we have Zillow, we have Redfin, we have so many other external valuations. So, the value of a home is actually a willing, able, and qualified buyer. What they pay to get a property is the value, established value of a property. Now, what is an appraisal? An appraisal is a third party who has no interest in the transaction. Like not the buyer, not the seller, not even the lender, not the agents, because even they have interest in the property, right? To get it sold and to get it bought for their clients. So it's a third party estimate from an independent licensed entity, and that entity is an appraiser. An appraiser is qualified to estimate home values. They will look at several parameters of what is the most recent sold data, what is the trend in the market, what was the condition of the property, whether the property is livable or not. Because the lender comes to know that the property has a leaking roof, and if they come to know of that from the appraiser. If the property is leaking, it's not habitable, the lender will not fund. Similarly, the appraiser also goes through what is the current condition of the property, and that's how they establish whether the property should be financed by the lender. So it serves multiple purposes. One, it establishes the value. Two, it tells the lender whether it is habitable or not. And three, they look at the minimum possible conditions. They measure the property and they take the pictures so that they understand what the upgrades are and what will that mean to the value of the property. Now, enough said about the appraisal. What does it mean to the buyer, to the seller, to the lender? These three entities, because they are the party to the transaction. So to the buyer, it means a third party or independent confirmation as to whether what they paid is really right or wrong. So if a property appraises higher, a buyer feels, oh, that's so awesome, I already made money. Because say somebody paid $1 million for a property that was listed for 900 and the appraisal came in at 1.1. It means that today itself they got $100,000 more in value on the property as compared to what they paid. So if the property appraises higher than what it was asking or the contract price, it means that the market is now trailing. So in fact, if your offer for us was accepted less than the appraised price, it means that the market is actually going downward. But people take it the other way. They think that, oh, now I got more money in my hands because my property appraised a little higher. So that's quite to the contrary. Suppose a property appraises lower. Appraisal is always about trailing data, not about what you're doing today. So when the property appraises lower, it means you bought it at a higher price, you paid a higher price, and today its value is lower. So the previous value was lower. In fact, when you paid more than the appraised value of the property, it means that you are in a rising market. Guess what happens? Why do people get their homes appraised even when they pay $1 million over the last sold price of the property? Because the appraisers know that the market is very strong, it's going up, and so it's going to be able to sustain. So those two things are quite to the contrary of what people think about appraisals. Sellers get upset if they see that the appraisal came in higher than the property price that they get accepted. The seller will get upset because they think that they have lost money. And in fact, realize this, that buyer's agents will typically not put that data out. They'll say, oh, it appraised fine, the loan is approved, great news, and we typically move on. So that's that. Now let's look at what an appraisal means to a lender. And that's the key. So let's take this example, that there was a property listed for $1 million, got accepted for $1 million. The originally agreed amount was 20% down payment, so $200,000 was the down payment. The appraisal comes in at $1 million. The lender will give you 80% of the loan on the appraised value or contract price, whichever is lower. Meaning, you offered 1 million, the offer got accepted at $1 million, the appraisal came in at $1 million, the buyer gets 80% in mortgage. Now let's go to the next stage and the easier one. Say the property appraises for 1.1 million. The lender does not give you 1.1 times 80%, which is 880. No, they will not give you that loan. And so you'll have to bring, you might think that you might only have to bring in $120,000 to down payment because the appraisal came in $100,000 higher. No, the lender will give you the appraised value or contract price, whichever is lower. Not just that, even if you went for a refinance, they will treat the same way. Whatever was the price in the last 6 months, they will typically not even consider the new value, even if it appraises for higher. So remember that other issue. If the appraisal comes in lower, what happens then? So say you are putting a 20% down payment for $1 million home. You're supposed to bring in $200,000 for down payment. But the appraisal comes in at $900,000 only. Now what do you do? In that case, what happens is that the lender is going to give you a loan or mortgage only on the $900,000. So 80% of $900,000 is $720,000. You won't get the $800,000 in mortgage because the lender is going to give 80% of the purchase price or the appraised value, and the appraised value came in lower. So how much cash does the buyer have to bring at this time on the table? The buyer needs to bring in $280,000 because they are going to get a mortgage of only $720,000. Now $280,000, if they don't have, this transaction is not going to happen. So now think about this. That's where the transaction goes dead in water. And I have seen cases where The buyer feels very nervous if the appraisal comes down. The buyer will think, my home is not valued that much, so I'm not going to buy it. In fact, that's not the case. The market is rising, so it's in an uptrend, and a market that's in uptrend, you're paying a higher price to get into that market. So when there are multiple offers, that's what it supports, and that's why the market is that time in an uptrend, and you're buying an uptrending market. So you're not going to, your home value is actually not at risk in that case. When the appraisal comes lower, you're in an uptrend market. When the appraisal comes higher, think the market is coming from here. The appraisal is looking back. The appraisal is a look back number. What is happening to the market then? It's going down. And so buyers think it differently. So what are the ways to mitigate the lack of appraisal? So one is very easy. Go to the seller and ask them to adjust that price. That's one way to mitigate it. So if you have an appraisal contingency, you can say, oh, I don't have the money to continue in this transaction, so I need to back off. Or if you can adjust the price, we are in. And if it is a slow market, a buyer's market, maybe the sellers will agree to it. The issue is, we are in a seller's market. There is no inventory. So today, you just have to keep putting more money. So what is your option in that case when the seller does not agree? When the seller does not agree, you have to bring in more money, like I told in that example where the appraisal came in low and the buyer had to bring $280,000 on $1 million transaction. So how much did their down payment become? 28%, not 20%, because the value came in lower. And if the appraisal comes in higher, great. You have great mental satisfaction that, oh, my appraisal was higher. For me, it's the other way around. And so that's the easy one. If you are in transaction, watch out for these factors. Read the appraisal report carefully. You will see whether the market is in an uptrend, downtrend, whether the transactions that are being settled are higher, lower, all that in the end portion which people don't read. Please do read that. I hope you liked this video. Was it informative? Please comment below. We'll love to hear back from you. Thank you for watching. See you on my next one. Bye.